Hi everybody, in this video I will provide a basic introduction to algebra. So you may get questions from your math teacher about where you get a simple equation like this and you're asked to solve for x. So there's some numbers and then there's some letters which we call variables, and you're asked to solve for the variable, asked to find out the value to assign to that variable, in this case x. And I'm going to show you some simple techniques to do so. So the basic underlying principle for how to do algebra is that you want to get x alone on one side of the equal sign, or maybe you might get a question to solve for y or solve for z. It can be any letter assigned to that variable, but you want to get the variable, in this case x, all alone on one side of the equal sign. So we find out what numerical value it equals. In this case, there's a 4 on the same side of the equal sign as the x, and we want to get rid of it. Now, as long as we do something to one side of the equation, or as long as we do something to both sides of the equation, then we can do whatever we want to the equation. So for example, I could add 3 to the left side of the equation, to the left side of the equal sign, as long as I add 3 to the right side. I could divide the left side by 2 as long as I divide the right side of the equal sign by 2. We're gonna play around with the equation and manipulate it by adding or subtracting or maybe multiplying or dividing in order to ultimately find a way to get that variable all alone on one side of the equal sign so we can find out what it's equal to. So in this case, I want to get that 4 away from the x. So I'm going to subtract 4 from that side of the equation. But remember, if I do something to one side of the equation, I have to do it to the other side of the equation as well. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Then I will rewrite my equation. If I subtract 4 from the left side of the equation, that 4 in there now becomes a 0 because 4 minus 4 is 0. Now if I subtract 4 from the right side of the equation, that 7 becomes a 3 because 7 minus 4 is 3. So now I've rewritten the equation as x plus 0 equals 3. And remember, x plus 0 is the same thing as just x. So I'll just rewrite it again, x equals 3. So now I've solved for x by subtracting the same number from both sides of the equation. Another question. X minus 6 equals 9. Solve for x. Okay, so remember, I can do whatever I want to this equation to get x alone as long as I do the same thing to the left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign. In this case, I need to get rid of that 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 6 to that side of the equation so that 6, which is basically a negative 6, because it's x minus 6, so it becomes a 0. Can I do that though? I can, as long as I do that to both sides of the equation. So now I'm going to add 6 to both sides of the equation, and I'm going to rewrite the equation. And now x minus 6 becomes x plus 0, or you could say x minus 0. It's basically just x over there now, isn't it? Because I got rid of that 6. And then I added 6 to the 9. And so the 9 plus 6 becomes 15. So now x plus 0 equals 15. In other words, x equals 15. So now I have solved for x. Okay, now we've got a new one to try. 4x equals 12. Well, I can't add or subtract from the left side of the equal sign in order to get x alone, because now this time there's a coefficient on x, which means x is actually multiplied by 4 on that side of the equation. So what can I do to get rid of that 4 that's in front of x? Well, I could divide by 4. If I divide the left side of the equation by 4, then that's fine as long as I divide the right side of the equation by 4. And when I do that, 4x divided by 4 equals 1x, because 4 divided by 4 is 1. So now 4x becomes 1x, and 12 divided by 4 on the right side of the equation becomes a 3. So I have 1x equals 3. Well, what's 1x mean? Well, 1x is just x. There's 1x, so there's just an x, right? So 1x equals 3 is the same as x equals 3. So I have solved for x, and x equals 3. Let's try another one. 3x minus 6 equals 9. So I've got to get rid of that 6 on the left side of the equation, and I've got to get rid of the 3. And again, I can do anything to the left side of the equation that I want, as long as I do that also to the right side of the equation. So let's get rid of the 6 first. So if I add 6 to the left, that negative 6 is going to become a 0, and then as long as I add it to the right, then it's fine that I added it to the left. Now I'm going to rewrite my equation. 3x plus 0 equals 15. And if I rewrite that, just drop the 0 out because it's meaningless, because it's just a 0, then 3x equals 15. Okay, now I got to get that coefficient of x, which is a 3, away from the left side of the equation. So again, I'm going to divide the left side of the equation by 3, and to be fair, I have to do that also to the right side of the equation. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, so therefore the 3x becomes a 1x, and 15 divided by 3 on the right side of the equation gives you a 5, so 1x equals 5. Remember, 1x is just the same as x, so I'm going to rewrite 1x equals 5 just to be x equals 5. So now we have solved for x. I hope you have found this video useful, and if you liked it, please click the like button and consider subscribing to the channel.